Hello and welcome to the first episode of Reverb and Resistance, a podcast about women in music brought to you by women in music. I'm your host, Tegan, a female within the Glasgow music scene. Let's jump right in. I'm going to cover a few different topics within the first episode, starting off with the perception gap of women in music, the percentages of women in music, the split that women have into their respective fields, and a discussion between men and women of being undermined within their professional settings. We will then end the episode with a track from the amazing Sinéad Miren, so please make sure you stick around for that. So I'm in my fourth year of uni right now, and because of it I've been doing a lot of research into just different areas of music. Because of it, I got told to narrow my area of interest down to one specific area. So naturally I picked women in music. It's always been an area that I personally have been really drawn to as a woman going into the music industry. It's always felt really, really important to me. So I thought that as an accumulation of all of the research that I've done over the past kind of 8 or 9 months, that a podcast would actually be a really good way of broadcasting it. And it gave me an excuse to not only delve in deeper into my own experiences, but into the experiences of other women in different music fields across the sectors. I think that as creatives, it's really easy to see when reflected on where your career paths and your career trajectories have been changed and altered throughout the course of your life. And I think that when I look back on my music career, there's areas that I can pinpoint that I go, that changed me. Like the first time that I got told that I played a boy instrument, or the first time I got asked when I was going to start looking into like a proper career that was professional. We need to get more females picking up guitars, forming bands and playing in bands. That was a quote from Jeff Ellis in 2019, who is the CEO of DF Concerts and Events. I remember hearing this quote for the first time, and I remember seeing it in newspapers and news articles, and it resonated with me really strongly. To this day, when I talk about women in music, it's one of the first quotes that come to my head to describe the situation that we're dealing with. On a surface level, there doesn't appear to be anything wrong with that. It seems like a cry out for women to be involved in the music industry and for it to be an inclusive space. But in actuality, there is girls in bands, and there is girls picking up guitars and forming bands and being headliners. If I've ever had a conversation with you about women in music, I will have spoken about this quote. For me, it was just so methodically placed there to make it look as though women are lacking in numbers in the music industry for lack of trying. We're simply not motivated enough to open the door for ourselves and learn the new instrument and form the new band. And I know that that is so far from the truth. But people that aren't actively involved in the music industry don't. And why wouldn't they listen to someone high up when they say that there is just a complete lack of females? But I'll come back to that later on. I think another one of the moments that I can pinpoint that completely changed the way that my brain worked was earlier on this year. One of my lecturers pointed me in the direction of a TuneCore Be the Change study. The study reported that 16% of the male respondents viewed that the music industry was generally discriminative on gender. This was compared to 50% of women respondents and 41% of gender expansive respondents. So 16% of the male respondents viewed the music industry as discriminative. 40% said that they didn't know if it was discriminative or not. This meant that 44% of men in the music industry viewed the music industry as inclusive. So up until this point in my research, I'd been working on the assumption that everyone that was in the music industry had an awareness of the fact that the gender gap was huge. It's been so widely documented and so well reported that there's multiple female-run organisations to try and combat the issues faced by women in music. It hadn't even crossed my mind that someone could not be aware of the issues in the music industry, or could even go as far as to say it was inclusive, because it's so far from that in my head. And of course, with any industry, there's going to be nuances within that, But I think that the most inclusive parts of the music industry have came from the fact it's been so discriminative for so long that there's been a genuine call for female-run organisation. The more research that I did and the more that I thought about my own experiences with music, the more I realised that I'm an anomaly within the industry. I came up through music surrounded by amazing female musicians that worked alongside male musicians, and it was really only when I was becoming more a part of the industry outside of school that I realised the rarity of the situation that I was in. I think that as I've grown up, I've become more aware of the issues faced by females, and I realised that there's a huge overlap between everyday sexism and the discrimination faced within the music industry. In the same TuneCore study, it was reported that only 7% of men reported feeling dismissed or interrupted during meetings, in comparison to 34% of females and 25% of gender-expansive individuals. 7% of males reported being dismissed or interrupted. That's a 27% difference to women. This report resonated a lot with me in ways that I wish that it didn't. I'm a girl that talks a lot. It's one of the things that people notice first about me is I like asking questions, and if I'm engaged, I'm talking and I'm listening. My professional practice is mainly within recording studios and live events. You know that I'm giving 100% of myself to something if I'm talking about it. That's the way that I function. Unfortunately, being a girl that talks a lot, I'm all too familiar with being spoken over and being undermined when I'm trying to talk about things I know about, and more often than not I'm talking about music. And I realised that when people read that maybe don't have that experience, they might not remember that statistic because it isn't relevant to them and they've not got anything that ties them to it. And I'm a strong believer that if you have an emotional connection to something, you're going to remember it and you're going to feel it. The statistics in music are so prevalent now that we're becoming desensitised to it. We need something to make people listen to them. So I made a sonic representation of what my head sounds like when people are speaking over me and I'm being undermined for things that I know that my knowledge adds value to. So when I could read that statistic, I could actually feel what I feel like when I'm being spoken over within a studio setting or a live setting. Here's a wee clip of what it sounds like for me. It's not pleasant to listen to, it's not nice. But luckily on a podcast, you can mute it or you can skip it, you don't have to listen to it. But unfortunately, that doesn't work in real life. In real life situations, you've got to just continue on as normal and finish the track that you're recording or finish the sound check that you're in, because that is your job at that moment in time, is to continue. And it often puts women in a really uncomfortable position where they either speak up and risk the confrontation aspect of the situation that they're in, or they stay quiet for their own safety and nothing changes because no issues are raised, which I don't think is a fair position for anyone to be put in, never mind in their place of work. When I was making the track that I played you, I wanted it to sound uncomfortable and I wanted it to not be pleasant to listen to. I think that it's vital to listen to things and to read things that make us uncomfortable. The things that make us uncomfortable are the things that demand change. A Musicians Union report in 2024 recalled that 51% of females reported feeling gender discrimination compared to 6% of men within the same fields. Looking at these statistics, it becomes an expectation that no one's surprised when they read them anymore. It's never been a surprise when a male and a female musician walk into a room. The female makes a point, and suddenly everyone in the room's eyes shift to the man to confirm and reinstate the points that she's just made. It's small, but it's prevalent and it's annoying. And from my experience, people look towards the men for answers and reassurance because they're assertive. Completely disregard my experience, my qualifications, my intellect, because there's someone taller in the room that can give you the same answers that I can. With that being said though, that situation only happens when there's a woman in the room to start with. But unfortunately, that isn't always the case. Even when there is a woman in the room to begin with, often the traits that are seen as positive in men are reflected negatively on women. For example, it's often vital that in leadership roles men are incredibly assertive in order to achieve the outcomes that they're aiming for. However, this isn't the case for women, and it often works to their detriment to be assertive. There's actually a study that's called From Aggressive to Assertive, and it showed that assertive behaviour in women was often misconstrued and misunderstood to be aggressive behaviour from women. There isn't space for aggression in the workplace, and rightfully so, but that inherently means that when women are intending to be assertive and it's been misconstrued as aggression, they're not getting the same outputs as their male counterparts. This indicates that not only is change required within music, but it's required within our general culture as well. Musicians Union also reported that of the women that are in music, 79% of them are performers. This drops to 15% for live sound engineers and 12% of studio mastering engineers. We need women in every sector of music, the same as we need men. The music industry is useless and dysfunctional if it isn't diverse, and nothing's diverse without changes. In my opinion, there isn't a single thing that makes the music industry discriminative. For example, a combination of live sound engineers and studio and mastering engineers make up just 15% of the women in the music industry. There are a series of failures that add up to this. Is it that the women are lacking in access to the software or the training to be confident and capable engineers? Or is it that we have a bank of confident and capable engineers that just don't have the opportunities that their male counterparts do? I would say it's a combination of both. Ultimately, there's no quick fix for any of this, but there absolutely are changes that can be made right now on a small scale and a large scale in order to make the industry better for everyone to work in. Now, I know that everything that we've spoken about in this episode is quite bleak. It doesn't paint the music industry in a very good light, and it doesn't make it seem like a very enjoyable place to work. If you or anyone you know is struggling with any of the topics discussed, please check the description for links to helplines and organisations that are available to you. If you would like further information on any of the studies discussed within this episode, please check the description box for links. If you have any queries, questions, concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out. My email is available within the description below, as well as a link to my Instagram page. I thought that at the end of each episode, I'd play a newly released track to remind us all of why we stay in the music industry and to serve as a way to support local artists. Incredible music is being released every day by women around the world, so why not showcase it? The song that I'm bringing to you today is an incredible track by Sinéad Miren. It's called Internal Torment and was released on the 8th of March this year. A link to Sinead's social media platforms and Spotify are in the description below, so please do check it out. As always, thank you for listening, and please do tune in for the next instalment of Reverb and Resistance.
Let's just say I can't get over you. Only time I am free. there's a bottle between my lips, looking at the screen, still in disbelief. Get dressed in black, but I'd rather avoid the music instead. I know I need help, it's all your fault. Until you, I was so strong. I'll lie awake at night, wondering, what if you never left? You stayed right here. What if you never went with him? Be happy, my dear. What if the what ifs is what's tearing me apart? Let's just say I can't cover you. Better run to the store, buy another bottle to survive this weekend. Looking at the screen, still in disbelief. It's been years now, gotta move on, but I'd rather live in my head instead. I know I need help, it's all your fault. Until you, I was so strong. I'll lie awake at night, wondering, what if you never left? You stayed right here. What if you never went with him? Be happy, my dear. What if the what ifs is what's tearing me apart? It's what's tearing me apart. What if, what if you never went with him? Be happy, my dear. If you stayed with friends, you'd still be here. I'll lie awake at night, wondering, what if you never left? You stayed right here. What if you never went with him? Be happy, my dear. What if the what ifs is what's tearing me apart? It's what's tearing me apart. What if, what if?
I would just like to say a massive thank you to everyone for sticking around this long. I would just like to say another huge thank you to Sinéad Miren for being featured on this episode. She is just one example of the amazing female team that we have on the Glasgow music scene. Sinéad is not only a performer, but she works in several fields of the music industry, so please do check it out. Our next episode is an interview with Millie from Studio Monks. In that episode, we get to hear some insider information on the Glasgow music scene, as well as Millie's experience being a female performer. You definitely won't want to miss it. Do you have a topic we think we should discuss? Is there something you think we're missing? Do you have any suggestions for tracks at the end of each episode? Let me know in the comments section below. Or, alternatively, message me directly on Instagram or email me at the email given, and I'll do my best to accommodate all suggestions. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next time.